Ag Matters is underwritten by Ag West Farm Credit. Ag West Farm Credit is a financial cooperative that provides financing, crop insurance, and related services to farmers and ranchers across the West. From small family businesses to large operations, Ag West brings the experience and financial know-how to help you grow your best future.
Welcome to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to Ag Matters. I'm your host, Ken Hoffman. I'm a farmer out in Palmer. My little farm's name is Matsu Microgreens, where we grow, you guessed it, microgreens and gourmet vegetables. But I'm also the executive director of the Alaska Farm Bureau. We're a networking organization for farmers and ranchers, and we're super cool, so you should definitely check us out. Speaking of Farm Bureau friends, I have a buddy of mine, Seth Pifer. Pifer, perfect. Thanks, Seth, for coming into the studio today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you're on the board of directors for the Matsu Farm Bureau. Super cool. The place where I met you was Farm Bureau, and you were our auctioneer.
Yep. Yeah, dessert auction this year.
That's right. Right. So if you just, tell the audience a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in Alaska, and then how you got into auctioneering, professional auctioneering.
Yeah, for sure. I'm originally from Larimore, North Dakota, a little small town on the east side of the state. Born and raised there, farming, grew up in agriculture all my life, and farmhand and odd jobs. And after high school, ended up joining the National Guard and got a lot of exposure there. And came back, went to college for agricultural economics at North Dakota State. Ended up hitting COVID, and through a long series of events there, I ended up active duty for COVID orders and figured I want to do something. I knew I wanted to move to Alaska. Mm-hmm. I hunt, fish outdoors back in North Dakota, but I want to do it on a bigger scale, and just randomly applied. I was a land surveyor for the National Guard. Okay. And I figured a good way to travel would be surveying, and threw an application and got lucky enough to get hired here as a hydrographic surveyor, underwater sonar mapping. And then, just moved up here sight unseen and stuck it ever since. Just kind of moved my wife up, and we love it. We love it up here. But agriculture has always been a huge part of my life. And my uncles back in North Dakota, they have Pifer's Auctioneers in the Midwest who do a lot of land and egg sales. And I grew up kind of around that, exposed to it, cleaning combines and selling little buckets of nails and just all that. And I went to Auctioneer College in Bozeman, Montana, Western College of Auctioneering, little Glendale, just a little town outside of Bozeman there. That was in 2019, I actually became an auctioneer and started selling for them and contracting myself out. And then kind of did more on the charity side of stuff and events, and didn't really have the time to do production sales. But we did lots and lots of farm sales back home, and wanted to get back into it up here. I love it. I love doing it, and ended up just kind of marketing myself and doing a lot of charity events. Ended up Mike Duan with D&D Auction and Gary Feaster.
Okay.
He hooked me up with Mike, and I ended up selling at the 4-H. The 4-H livestock auction was my kind of first big one. I think I've been doing that 4 or 5 years now.
Okay.
And ended up getting hired by the gal I work for, Jill Hendrickson, Webb Auctions originally. Now we're Wild Alaska Auctions. Ended up getting hired by her dad, Brad Webb, to sell a live auction, and it just kind of toppled from there, and been doing it ever since up here. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So the 4-H auction at the fair?
Yeah, at the fair.
Okay, that big one. Okay, yeah. That's great. So tell me about Auctioneering College. What is that? What does that even mean? I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah. So, it's I would call it more school, but it's a certification basically. It's down in the lower 48. There are a lot more licensing needed. Up here, you don't need an auctioneer license to be an actual auctioneer. You just need your business license to sell. But it's basically a 90-hour course. You have to attend and then you have to get sponsored and brokered. But it's a week they teach you the basics of the industry, they teach you how to bid call originally, and it's just it's more of a certification and code of ethics basically. And they expose you, so there's a bunch of colleges all over in lower 48. There's the 2 hours between Western and between Worldwide. And when I found out that the guy who started Worldwide went to Western, I said, well, I'm going to do that original one. And Nick Bennett, he's a IAC champion. He's great. He was my my teacher, he owned the school at the time. And yeah, they teach you how to ring man. There's a lot to it, and it's a lot of business psychology, and they teach you everything, and it's great. Pat Busby, one of the greatest ringmen I've ever met, he was my teacher, and it was an incredible experience.
Okay. So some of those terms I've never even heard of. So what's ring man?
So a ring man would be the guy out on the floor, basically helping the auctioneer. He's an extension of the auctioneer.
Okay.
He's looking for bids, calling bids, talking to people, getting them to understand. You know, sometimes we're going too fast for certain people to understand. We have to keep the pace because we're selling hundreds of items a day. And the ring man, I would argue, is just as important as the auctioneer. Having a good ring man can really make the sale. And they're basically the ones between the crowd and the auctioneer, calling bids, and just a full extension, a second set of eyes. And they're communicating with the audience directly.
Okay. So back in lower 48, why did you get into auctioneering? Did you like attend livestock auctions and you just thought it was fascinating?
More so on the farm side, yeah. I'll fall asleep to livestock auctioneering. I love it. I'll listen to it. But it's just always been a big interest. You know, my uncles had a lot to do with it, the exposure of it growing up and driving around with my Uncle Bob and setting up signs for land sales and all that. And just, it was the most exciting time of my life. I still remember it in my hometown. We were over at the old Articat dealership selling stuff off a flatbed. And I'm probably 7 or 8 years old, just holding up tools and, trying to be a ring man and not knowing what I'm doing, but selling off it. And just that's what people get infatuated with. They think it's, oh, you're the guy who talks fast, but it's really, it's a song. It's beautiful. It's really just a good rhythmic thing. And it just really got me hooked right away. And then I just kept trying ever since to pound my way into the industry. And eventually now it seems to be taken. We just closed on my first online auction up here.
Okay.
But as my personal sale, I've done a lot of contract selling just as a bid caller up here, but this was actually my first book sale.
Okay. So online auctioneering, I've always been part of like an online auction where you're just bidding on things like eBay.
Yes.
But you don't have like somebody actually talking. But
no, there's large companies that do that. They call it simulcast, where you'll have to be online doing it. There's certain arguments on which tends to be better, but as far as this time of year, I'm busy with the surveying and all that, and the online auctions, they tend to do very well, especially in a place like Alaska where it's so remote. But the method I typically like is we'll take a lot of back in the Midwest when I go back to sell, we'll take, 100 of the biggest items we have, and we'll run those simulcasts. People can put reserve bids in. They can say, I want to pay $5,000 for this. And, if we started at 100 and people are only bidding up to 2,200, they'll buy it for 23, right? If you run simulcast, you have the live auction and the online one, and a good auctioneer can really push those bids. Auctioneering industry is the really cool thing about it is it's the purest form of marketing. It's what somebody's willing to pay for this item right here, right now. And that's really what we're trying to achieve. We're not trying to give people great deals. We're trying to work for our seller, and we're trying to really help them along. And a lot of these people, it's a hard time in their life. It's a business closing, or hopefully it's a retirement auction. They're happy and they're out and done. But that's 90% of the time that's not the case. And we're really working for our seller. The online world has gotten so big, and it's a very awesome tool to use. But I'm a bid caller. That's what I like doing. So that's kind of the world I like. So that's why I like the cattle industry. Because that's all, it's simulcast too. But that's live bid call and pushing things along. And it's just a really attractive part of the industry for me. And that's what people think of when they think of auctioneers, right, is the live bid calling.
Yeah.
So it's a useful tool, the online thing, for smaller estates and even much larger estates as well. But I am going to try to get some live ones in the valley here this year.
Okay. So what's special about auctioneering off 4-H kids' animals?
Oh, it's incredible experience. It's not the cattle market, that's for sure. I mean, stuff's expensive up here, but it's such a great experience. I got really involved with 4-H and mostly a lot of FFA. I was FFA in high school and all that. And Mark Pratt, he really helped me a lot. I was actually their auctioneer for the FFA auction too.
Okay.
And it's just so rewarding to see these kids, in an industry that I took for advantage. Everybody's a farmer, rancher, anything where I'm from, or in agriculture, or has a family member in it. And up here, we're doing our best to get everybody exposure to it. And I'm very confident it's working, but it's such a rewarding thing to see these kids actively trying out egg and being food secure and understanding the importance of it. And it's the greatest auction I do every year is that 4-H one, because it's also a whole community. I mean, these businesses are spending tens of thousands of dollars on these animals. And, it's not, they could go to the grocery store and buy it cheaper from Costco, but they're out there supporting these kids. And it's just a really rewarding experience in general.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's so positive. It's not like a foreclosure auction where it's a little bit more somber. This is fun. Yeah, for sure. So say there's somebody out there who loves listening to auctioneering. Actually, a lot of people do. I love listening to it. It's super fun. But what are you saying in between these numbers? Normally, it sounds good, but it also sounds like gobbledygook at the same time.
Yeah.
And so tell us a little bit of like the secrets of an auction.
For sure, yeah. So, I mean, everybody's got their own little tizzies they throw in there, what we call them. So there's numbers and filler words. Those are two things. When you go to the school I went to, Western, they didn't teach us a single word until the last day. It's all numbers. It's a pace of numbers. So if you're going on a pace of numbers, they'll teach you sequential. They'll tell you, okay, we're going to start a beat. We're going to do a low beat, and we're going to go 10, 10, 10, 20, 20, 20, 30, 30, 30, and they keep it real low, and then the big one is they go, your pass bid and your forward bid. Okay, what do I have and what are you looking for? I'm bid 10, give me 20. 10, 20, 20, 20, 20, 30, 30, 30, 20, 30, 30. I'm bid 10, give me 20. 20 daughter and hound. And 10, 20, 20, 20, 10, 20, 20, 20. And so people get caught up in the words, but to be an efficient auctioneer, numbers is the big thing. Okay. Numbers is the massive. I mean, the words are cool, but those are the main things that we focus on. And then when you start to develop your chant, they'll teach you, I'm bid 10, give me 20, 20 daughter hound. And so dollar bidder now is a big one. Dollar, money, bid. I mean, I have, hand 10 to get a bid in the palm there. And so mine, dig it on bid now, is some of the things. Or very famous cattle auctioneer, I stole his chant from his bidder down, bear down, bidder down, bear down. I use a lot of D's and B's in mine just because my mouth flows better on that. And every industry is different. There's basically three main industries. It's charity, cars, and cattle. Okay. And all three of those do regular estate auctions typically. Mm-hmm. And you'll find a whole lot of different ones because cattle guys are selling in quarters, dimes, halves, and the car guys are selling in increments, sometimes $300 increments, which is hard. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. So the words you fill in. So I'll go 10, bidder down, pair down 20, bidder down, pair down 20 now to get a bid in 30, hand bid a 30. And so it's the main important thing is punching the numbers on there, right? 1, 2, 2, 2, now 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, and 3. And so it's the words are they're the fun part for sure. But yeah, the main importance is getting the crowd the numbers to bid. But yeah, I mean it would be bid, dollar, bid a dollar. Bid it on 1, bid it on 2, hand 2, bid it on 3. And it's really whatever flows in your mouth. Everybody's built different. I can't roll my R's, so I can't do a lot of the cool Southern guys' hands.
That's fun. Yeah. I've heard filler words of sometimes they'll have nursery rhymes or something like that. You can get really elaborate.
So that's when we're doing the college, they teach you the most famous one out there. Everybody knows is Betty Botter, and they'll do a beat and go. Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. So she bought a bit of better butter, put it in her bitter batter, made her bitter batter better, so 'tis better. Betty Botter bought a bit of better butter. And then they'll teach you how to inflect it and make it fast. And Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said this butter bitter. If I put it in my batter, it will make my batter bitter. So she bought a bit of butter, put it in her bitter batter, so better. It's a lot of inflection, and they'll teach you how to actually move your voice, and I like to call it the hum. It teaches you the hum, because that's the difference between Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said, and Betty Botter bought some butter, but she said this butter's bitter. It's almost a backwards hum of 10, 20, 30, 10, 20, 30. And that teaches you, and then, there's tons of them. Big black bug, but the big black bear. Theophilus thistle, the famous thistle sifter, while sifting a sieve full of unsifted thistles, throws 3,000 thistles through the thick of his thumb.
Wow.
Tons. Tons of them.
Okay. A lot of tongue twisters.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Yeah.
So, more about agriculture. I'm curious, do you do any agriculture at your house? Do you do any farming, gardening?
Well, yeah, gardening, all that. We own some rentals, so we're kind of in smaller places, but yeah, so we we do gardening, all that, and my sister and my brother-in-law out in Western North Dakota, they run cattle. So I have always had a real interest in butchering. So like in the winters, I go home because it's not cold enough here for me. Not enough wind here for me. And so in North Dakota, so like the one winter, I just worked for a buddy of his as a butcher.
Really?
And I do all my own home butchering and processing, and my wife won't even let me buy bacon anymore. I got to make it, And so I do a lot more on the meat side of things, and we also do. I mean, like everybody up here, the canning and preserving and the foraging. My wife loves berry picking. I don't have the patience for it, so I'm into mushrooms, But yeah, we do home gardening, and I'd like to, when we get a bigger place, I'm not going to start production gardening. I'm too busy with my other stuff, but
yeah.
And the microgreen market's pretty full up here, so
Yeah.
But yeah, just a massive supporter of agriculture. My dad farmed for 35 years, and then was forced to sell out, and now he's retired and farming again, and just for other people, and it's just an industry that we absolutely have been a part of our entire life. So
Yeah.
but not as much up here. But the auctioneering thing is kind of my exposure to it now.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Are you hoping to get a cow or two up here when you get a larger place, or is it too much work?
Yeah. What I would love is to just run a couple of steers on somebody else's land, and then I'll pay for it.
That's right. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's cool that you're into meat cutting. Butchery. There's not a lot of folks up here in Alaska that can do that.
Oh yeah. It's always been fun. We always did whitetail back in the day, and during COVID I really got into it, and it was to the point now, I picked up 300 pounds of pork belly from Costco when it's on sale, and we just make it, and all my buddies get together, and we do a lot of meat processing.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, as we start closing out the show, I mentioned earlier that you're on the board for the Mat-Su Farm Bureau, and so I guess I want to ask you, why did you volunteer? Why do you see value in agriculture here in the Mat-Su? Even though maybe Alaska is not the best place for agriculture, but it's still important.
Well, it's the fact that, Alaska isn't the best place for it just makes it that much more important. I took advantage of it. You could sneeze out a watermelon seed and grow it back where I come from. And up here, it's, the food security is, in my opinion, one of the most important things. Food, water, shelter, right? Mm-hmm. And all these, chemicals and everything getting pushed into our body, and just knowing what's going into our bodies is so important. And being able to do that yourself, that's why I do the butchery. That's why I do everything, because I want to know where my stuff's coming from. I want to know how my neighbor does it, and I want to be able to support them. And I was involved in North Dakota Farm Bureau for a little bit, and the advocacy up here is so much more important because there's so little exposure to it. And the mission that you're doing is just incredible to me, and I encourage everybody I can to get into ag. And just because it is such an important part of our country's economy, everything. It's basic survival, right? And so being able to rely on ourselves instead of foreign countries, and being able to rely on our community, a tight-knit community, is so important to me.
Yeah.
So the food security is the main thing, and seeing people get involved and do it is just really incredible to me. So I'm a huge advocate for it.
Absolutely. And we need as many advocates as we can get. Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I've always said, if you're a farmer, join Farm Bureau. If you depend on a farmer, like eat food or wear clothes or anything like that, you should also join Farm Bureau, or at least advocate for your farmer, support local agriculture, purchase Alaska grown when you can.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Seth, for coming in.
Yeah,
that was really fun.
Thanks for having me, Ken. That was awesome.
All right, everybody, thank you for listening to Ag Matters. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Ag Matters, covering positive agriculture stories from across Alaska on Big Cabbage Radio. Ag Matters is a production of Radio Free Palmer, recorded at our studios in Palmer, Alaska. For more information about this program, email manager@radiofreepalmer.org.